Let's talk about compensation appearing on listings. This is part of Rule 306.3 in the policy and procedures document in our knowledge base. And what this really says is important to every real estate professional. And it's important because it's there to help you avoid any costly violations related to compensation appearing on your listings at all. So let's jump into this. What is Rule 306.3 and what are the expectations here? Well, Rule 306.3 sets very clear expectations on how compensation appears in the MLS and where it appears in the MLS. Okay. First of all, each MLS field may contain only the information intended for that specific field. There are no exceptions there. Second of all, what it says is that all compensation information, including offers of compensation, seller concessions, bonuses, may not appear on the listing at all. Okay, no compensation or concession may be limited to or conditioned upon a specific brokerage or agent. And this rule applies to, all of the materials associated with that listing, whether it's remarks, photos, attachments, supplements, documents, anything attached to that listing itself may not have any kind of compensation related information on it. So some violations that are more typical on properties are, bonuses, statements like $1,500 bonus to buyer's agent. That can't be placed anywhere on the listing. Brokerage-specific incentives, phrases such as extra 1% to XYZ Realty, that violates the rule because it creates this preferential treatment for specific brokerages. And also any conditional concessions. So, for example, this might be a seller concession that's dependent on which brokerage or agent is involved. So, seller will use, if seller uses XYZ brokerage, the seller will pay $10,000. If that buyer uses that brokerage, that's prohibited as well. So these are just a few examples that would represent violations of that Rule 306.3. All right, this is not limited to these examples, but these are just some clear examples. If we do find ourselves in violations of 306.3, this compensation rule, there's a few steps that we can go through to correct this. First of all, let's take a look at all of our listing, every piece of our listing. Public remarks, agent remarks, photos, virtual tours, attachments, documents. Check for anything that's related to compensation or incentives. And let's go ahead and remove that. Let's delete that language that includes bonuses, concessions, incentives, brokerage-specific offers, anything like that. If these are reported, if the MLS staff comes across any listing that has some kind of compensation-related information on it, the compliance staff will remove the non-compliant content when it's discovered. It'll also issue a notification and a fine. If you do find some compensation-related information on your listing and you do go ahead and remove that, go ahead and make sure that listing is compliant, and then you can resubmit it through the MLS system. I encourage agents to go ahead and look at your listing once it's live and just filter through it and make sure that any violations are removed. With this violation, I should say, of Rule 306.3, there is an immediate fine, and that falls under Section 11 of the Policy and Procedures document. You can find that in our knowledge base. There is no grace period for this. There is no courtesy warning for this violation. MLS staff must remove all prohibited content upon discovery. This is important for you because if that compensation information happens to appear in the public remarks, well, they will remove all of the public remarks, and at that point, you don't have any. Okay, so it might temporarily suppress your listing in searches and things like that until that's corrected. So, just a key here, remember the listing agent is fully responsible. Listing brokerage is fully responsible for ensuring all remarks, media, and attachments comply with that requirement before submission. So to stay compliant with 306.3, let's just keep these principles in mind. Field integrity. Use the MLS fields exactly as intended. Okay, agent remarks don't belong in public remarks, and so on and so on. Ensure no compensation references appear in your remarks, photos, virtual tours, documents, or attachments. And know the rules. Regularly review that MLS Rules and Procedures manual. Just stay updated on any policy expectations and rule changes. And if you need any help, any guidance, please feel free to reach out to our support.